Long before cities, farms, or written laws existed, our ancestors roamed the earth in search of food, shelter, and survival. For the vast majority of human history, spanning nearly 2 million years, people lived as hunter-gatherers, depending entirely on nature to provide everything they needed. This lifestyle, often called foraging, shaped the human body, mind, and social structure in ways that still influence us today. Understanding the hunter-gatherer way of life gives us a window into who we truly are as a species, where we came from, and how we developed into the complex civilizations of the modern world. Origins, how it all began. Hunting and gathering emerged with Homo erectus about 1.8 million years ago and was humanity's original and most enduring successful adaptation in the natural world, occupying at least 90% of human prehistory. Before this, earlier hominins relied primarily on scavenging, eating the remains of animals killed by other predators. But over time, early humans began to actively hunt animals and deliberately gather plants, nuts, berries, and roots. Anthropologists have discovered evidence for the practice of hunter-gatherer culture by modern humans, Homo sapiens, and their distant ancestors dating back as far as 2 million years. This means that for an almost incomprehensible stretch of time, every single human being on Earth lived this way, no exceptions. Agriculture, which many of us consider the natural way to produce food, is actually a very recent invention in the grand timeline of humanity. Who were the hunter-gatherers? Hunter-gatherers lived in small bands of 50 to 100 people, fostering a sense of community and equality between genders as both men and women contributed to food acquisition. These bands were not random collections of strangers. They were typically made up of extended family units who trusted and depended on one another completely. The ancient hunter-gatherers lived in small groups, normally of about 10 or 12 adults plus children. They were regularly on the move, searching for nuts, berries, and other plants, which usually provided most of their nutrition, and following the wild animals which the males hunted for meat. Within these groups, there were no kings, no chiefs, and no formal governments. Most anthropologists believe that hunter-gatherers did not have permanent leaders. Instead, the person taking the initiative at any one time depended on the task being performed. This was a deeply egalitarian society where cooperation was not just valued, it was essential for survival. Daily life, food, and survival. The central activity of every hunter-gatherer group was, unsurprisingly, finding food. This was not a simple task. The hunter-gatherer lifestyle required access to large areas of land between 7 and 500 square miles to find the food they needed to survive. This made establishing long-term settlements impractical, and most hunter-gatherers were nomadic. Men and women generally played different roles in food acquisition. Hunter-gatherer societies usually divided labor by gender, with women usually gathering wild plants and men usually fishing and almost always doing the hunting. However, recent research is challenging this view. A major cross-cultural study found that in 79% of societies examined, there was clear evidence of women participating in hunting as well, suggesting that gender roles were more flexible than once thought. The diet of ancient hunter-gatherers was remarkably varied and nutritious. Consider the foods they ate: meat, eggs, fish, vegetables, and berries, a simple diet free from processed foods, high in protein and healthy fats, and low in simple carbohydrates. Because they ate such a wide variety of natural foods, their health was often surprisingly good. Skeletal remains indicate that they were tall, well-nourished, and had good teeth. Their active nomadic lifestyle also provided them with a level of daily exercise that most modern humans never achieve. Tools and technology. One of the most remarkable aspects of ancient hunter-gatherers was their ability to develop and refine tools. During the Stone Age, sharpened stones were used for cutting before hand axes were developed, marking the onset of Acheulean technology about 1.6 million years ago. Over time, tools became increasingly sophisticated. Early humans had tools made of stone, bone, and wood, and there were over 100 different kinds of tools in hunter-gatherer society. A hunter's kit could include fishing hooks, harpoons, and various knives. These tools were not just weapons, they were carefully engineered devices that required knowledge, skill, and often collaboration to produce. The development of tools reflects a deeper truth about our ancestors. They were intelligent, creative, and constantly innovating. Every improvement in tool technology meant better chances of survival, and those innovations were passed down through generations. The discovery of fire. Perhaps no single development changed the course of human history more dramatically than the mastery of fire. By at least 400,000 years ago, human bands roving around and setting themselves up in caves, not just in Africa but also in the Middle East and Europe, knew and used fire. Clear evidence of hearths have been found in Acheulean levels. Fire transformed hunter-gatherer life in multiple ways. Most obviously, it provided warmth in cold climates and light in the darkness. It could be used to drive animals out of dense vegetation during hunts, but perhaps its most important contribution was cooking. Cooked food was easier to chew, easier to digest, and safer to eat because heat killed harmful bacteria. This dietary change may have played a role in the evolution of the human brain itself, as cooking unlocked more calories and nutrients from food. Fire also had an important social impact. With the light it provided, hunter-gatherers could stay active even after sundown, extending their days and leaving more time for social bonding, which is very important, especially in larger groups. The campfire became the original social gathering place, a place where stories were told, relationships were built, and culture was born. Social structure and community. Hunter-gatherer societies were built on a foundation of deep social bonds. Without the protection of walls, armies, or police forces, humans depended on each other in a very raw and direct way. Trust, cooperation, and mutual support were not abstract virtues, they were survival strategies. Research suggests that a kind of social network structure could well have appeared quite early on in human history, with connections stretching not just to family members, but also to non-kin, and that this social aspect may have helped spark increasingly intensive cooperation. The sharing of resources was a central value. When meat was obtained either by hunting or by finding a dead animal, it was shared among the group. Hoarding food or accumulating personal wealth was not only impossible given the nomadic lifestyle, it was culturally discouraged. The hunter-gatherer style of life prohibited the accumulation of more wealth by some individuals as opposed to others. This radical equality extended to gender relations as well. Because both men and women meaningfully contributed to the group's survival, neither sex held absolute dominance over the other. Many anthropologists argue that early hunter-gatherer societies were among the most genuinely egalitarian communities in all of human history. Spirituality and art. Ancient hunter-gatherers were not purely focused on physical survival. They also had rich spiritual lives and creative expression. Evidence of this can be found in some of the most breathtaking art ever created, the cave paintings of Lascaux in France and Altamira in Spain. About 10,000 years before modern visitors came to see them, Paleolithic artists had painted mysterious signs, including what looked like herds of animals, horses, boars, bison, and deer, on cave ceilings. Early artists crushed yellow, black, and red rocks and combined them with animal fat to make their paints. They used twigs and their fingertips to apply these paints to the rock walls, and later used brushes made from animal hair. Why did they create this art? Historians aren't entirely sure. Some believe the paintings were connected to hunting rituals intended to bring good luck. Others think they might have deeper spiritual or ceremonial significance. Whatever the reason, these paintings prove that ancient humans were capable of imagination, symbolism, and aesthetic thought, the very foundations of what we call culture. Myths gave hunter-gatherers their worldview, how the universe was born, how humans came to be, and there is clear evidence for spiritual beliefs, and indeed for belief in some kind of life after death. Religion and storytelling were not inventions of later civilizations, they were born around the ancient campfire, in the minds of people trying to make sense of a vast and mysterious world. The transition to agriculture. For thousands of generations, the hunter-gatherer lifestyle was essentially universal. Then, approximately 12,000 years ago, something changed. With the beginnings of the Neolithic Revolution about 12,000 years ago, when agricultural practices were first developed, some groups abandoned hunter-gatherer practices to establish permanent settlements that could provide for much larger populations. This transition was not sudden. It happened gradually over thousands of years in different parts of the world at different times. The full transition from hunting and gathering was not immediate, as humans needed time to develop proper agricultural methods and the means for combating diseases encountered through close proximity to livestock. As farming spread, hunter-gatherer communities were slowly displaced. Following the invention of agriculture, hunter-gatherers who did not change were displaced or conquered by farming or pastoralist groups in most parts of the world. The land that once supported small nomadic bands through foraging was now occupied by larger, settled communities that could grow their own food. Survivors, hunter-gatherers today. Not all hunter-gatherer cultures disappeared. A small number of communities around the world have maintained elements of this ancient lifestyle into the modern era. Among the more famous groups are the San, also known as the Bushmen of